He was with us live from the committee prison where ICJ and other human rights bodies are having a forum together with the prisoners to chart the way forward as far as this law is concerned. Now, the report on contentious electoral laws changes is set to be tabled in Parliament this afternoon. Members of the Select Committee that held public hearings on the laws went on a retreat over the weekend to prepare the report. The opposition NASA has vehemently opposed the law changes, and just a while ago we saw ODM chairperson John Mbadi say no member of parliament either from the National Assembly or the Senate will be participating in any sittings where these particular laws will be discussed. To shed more light on this story, we're now joined by our senior parliamentary reporter Patrick Amimo live from Parliament. Amimo, with the opposition NASA saying that they will continue to boycott the sittings as far as these laws are in discussion, what do we expect to see this afternoon when that report is tabled?
From the words of the minority leader John Mbadi in the National Assembly, and also in the Senate, we've heard his counterpart Mutula Jr. They've indicated that all members allied to NASA have been whipped. So it means they will not be participating in this particular process. They've termed it an illegitimate process. They say that the way the Select Committee or ad hoc committee was constituted was illegal and unconstitutional. They'll not be attending to these to the chambers to legitimize that process. Remember, this particular, when the Select Committee was being formed, NASA did not submit names of membership to these particular committees. They said the reason why they did so was because these particular laws were suspect, according to them. They said that there was no reason why the Jubilee side could come up with these particular amendments very late in the electoral cycle, because according to them, the election cycle is yet to be completed until the fresh presidential election that has been ordered by IBC on October 26th is done. And that's now the reason that is informing their decision not to attend the chamber. They're also saying that these particular provisions would have naturally followed the sequence whereby either the National Assembly would have discussed them first, the amendments, before they are passed to the Senate, and or the Senate would have decided to debate these particular amendments first before they are passed over to the National Assembly. But they are now saying that by the fact that they're being guillotined, they are being put on the table in both houses at the same time, they are saying that is illegal because the one house recommendations or the debate should inform the other. They are of the opinion that even if Jubilee side will go ahead and rubber stamp these particular amendments and or push them through, then that will be an illegitimate process, and they'll be going to seek a court injunction over the same. But they've identified areas like that position touching on the composition of IBC, where they say the three members can form a quorum. They say that is an illegality. We saw IBC when it appeared before the committee. They did indicate that they want the quorum to remain at 5. The NASA is also saying that that by virtue of that provision of that amendment touching on the position of the chairperson, especially the qualifications where they've been now watered down, they say that's an attempt to strip the IBC chairperson of the powers to do and announce the results of the presidential election, given that IBC chairperson is the national returning officer for the presidential election. So they have poked holes in those particular amendments, and they say the amendments are meant to overturn the decision that was reached by the Supreme Court of Kenya when it nullified the presidential election on September 1st, and also gave a detailed ruling on why they did so on September 21st, when now Kenyans came to know the reasons why that informed IBC, because the decision that informed Supreme Court of Judges to nullify that election, where they said that they found massive irregularities and illegalities were committed when we had some forms that were did not have watermarks, some did not have the serial numbers, some also lacked security features. And they said these forms, these documents that were used to return that presidential election affected 80 constituencies, which total sum amounted to 5 million votes. That's why the election was cancelled. And we've seen also in this particular election amendment, the Jubilee side is coming up with that amendment where they now want that these elections should be done manually, submitted manually instead of electronic transmission. The NASA says that this particular provision, when there was that joint select committee that was chaired by Senator Orengo and Kiraitu Murungi last year, they went through a long process to agree on the changes that they were to be made to this particular election before Kenyans participated in the election in this August. They say that by Jubilee coming to introduce these amendments later in the day, it is suspect and they'll not really endorse that particular matter. And the other, maybe lastly, the one issue that they've looked at is that this particular provision, they are saying that especially that part on transmission of results, they say they'll not really accept that. And there is also another provision that that amendment in the afternoon that will be introduced by the leader of majority in the National Assembly, Adwin Duale. That is to do with the Election Offences Act. And this particular amendment, they want to do away with that provision that criminalizes the government to advertising its services during an electioneering period. It is Duale's opinion that is citing Article 35 of the Constitution, where he says that Kenyans the right to information, the right to access information. And according to Duale, he wants this provision deleted so that the government can advertise its projects during the campaign period, because he says it's the right of Kenyans to access this kind of information. That particular provision will be moved in the House this afternoon, both in the National Assembly and the Senate, together with Chepkonga amendments that are touching, which are extensive and touching on the election amendment laws 2017. So those two bills will be introduced to the floor of the House this afternoon, but then it appears they will not have an input from the opposition side, NASA, after their members, the party decided to whip their members not to participate in the entire process, which is slated for today and tomorrow. Akisa?
All right. We'll be seeing how that goes down in the